Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I am so excited today. We are starting our new series worth talking about, which is a conversational piece of diving into topics that are often silent and not spoken aloud, but are very necessary. So today we are starting with the topic entitled, Forgive Your Absent Father. If you have personally not experienced this, I know for a fact you know someone who did. So grab your tissue and get ready to collectively heal together. Stay tuned. So this topic is really near and dear to my heart. It is something that I have currently been walking through. And so I am inviting you to come on this journey with me as we dive into the topic of forgiving your absent father. So the backstory is, in this past Father's Day, I felt this prompting that I was supposed to reach out to my biological father, who had just appeared on my Facebook people you know sort of situation. And originally it wasn't something that I wanted to do, and that I wasn't gonna, this is my honest truth, I wasn't gonna obey. So I waited, of course, until 11:30 that night because I felt like I was supposed to do it on Father's Day. So I did it, and the response, but my heart's posture was very bitter. I had an attitude toward it, and I was really just doing it just to get it done. And so the response that I got, of course, there was this thank you, but it was very dry and just like, what was the point of this? And so I didn't feel like I had any type of father issue, even though he wasn't around when I was growing up. Like I was good. And I think because I have amazing men in my life who have been very instrumental and very strategic and intentional in helping build me up, that it just wasn't a big deal to me, I guess. So didn't have an issue. Shout out to Ted Butler and Matt Wakefield. They are two of probably the pivotal men in my life for sure. But as the days went on and as time started to bypass, I started to watch my husband and my son Zion interact. And where there used to be this joy and excitement, it ended up almost this bitter place and this jealousy of their relationship. And so I just kept blowing it off, but then I recognized, okay, this is becoming a problem. This question started to arise in me, and I'm trying not to get emotional. Why didn't my father say? I'm watching my husband be very intentional and very strategic in how he interacted with my son, and I just couldn't for the life of me gather up that excitement anymore. It just became this problem of like, why are you doing it for him? Why didn't my father stay? And that's really a hard place for me to admit, because it sounds completely crazy. Like, why would I not want my husband to stay? Why would I not want him to have that intentional relationship with my son? It's very necessary for boys to have that, just in general, for them to have that relationship. From that process, what I recognize is that I am now left with the decision. Am I going to take ownership and responsibility for the hand that I was dealt and deal with it? Or am I going to continue to make excuses for why I live the way I live? I recognize that oftentimes when we have grown up fatherless and like our fathers are not present, it does cause us to make certain decisions. But at 27 years old, I don't have the luxury of blaming someone else for the reason I am the way I am. Yes, I was dealt a bad hand, or a hand that I'm not even going to call it a bad hand at this point. I was dealt a hand that was maybe not my most desirable by any means, but it was used and very strategic in God shaping who I am and who I am called to be. Yes, my father was not present in my life, but the reality is I don't get to make excuses for why I do this or why I don't do that based upon him not doing something. That is no longer okay to make these excuses and to continue to live in that. I chose to forgive him. And when I chose to forgive him, I chose to walk away from those excuses. And what I recognize is that sometimes it's so much easier to stay in the place of blame and to stay in the place of that victimhood, because then I can justify the actions and I can justify why I either do or don't do based upon what he did. So I recognize that, yeah, sometimes it just feels so good to sit in that pain. And sometimes it feels good because I want him to pay. I wanted him to pay for what he did, and I wanted him to pay for what he didn't do. I wanted him to pay for not showing up. I wanted him to pay for the abandonment that I felt. I wanted him to pay for the rejection that I felt. And I felt justified in that, because you made a decision to have a child and not take care of it. So I felt very justified in that, but it's so not worth it. Staying in the place of victimhood, I want to be victorious. I don't want to live a life where I'm blaming other people for my actions. So we have to remove ourselves from the place of pain, and we have to start taking ownership and responsibility for our own actions. Oftentimes we're looking to men in other relationships, and women go multiple ways, but typically it's they are very promiscuous, or they can't stand men, period. There's no trust for them. And I know that it comes out in a lot of different forms. And what I learned even in being married, but just in general, is that men will never be able to fill that void. There's no amount of sex. There's no amount of men buying flowers or any of that. There's no amount that will ever fill that void. It's just not going to happen. And even me, I've been in abusive relationships, and I didn't know that it was a bad thing because it was what I had saw. My father wasn't there, but relationships that I did see, that to me, that equated love. So abuse, all of that equated love to me. And so I allowed my standards to fall in certain situations because I felt like, wow, you value me enough. This is a crazy mindset, but you value me enough to put your hands on me. You valued me enough to do this. And so I see women where we have walked either in an abusive relationship, we allowed our standards to fall, all because of something that we didn't see. And I want you to know that even though our fathers weren't there, and even though that may be that is a very real issue, the reality is none of that will ever fill the void that we feel. One of the other pieces, I'm going to get emotional. One of the other pieces that I found so almost a pattern in women is that the rejection, the abandonment, all left us feeling like we were unworthy. It all left us feeling with this like emptiness. And what I want us to know is that our worth is not determined on or by someone's ability to see our value, or someone's ability to stay or not stay in our life. And I know that that's hard, because I'm telling you from experience that I know what it feels like to have those thoughts of like, well, man, there's no way that I'm worthy if he left. I was young. There's all these things and these lies that we begin to tell ourselves because of someone not staying. And especially when it's your father not staying, and you see these relationships or you see your friends have relationships with their fathers, and they're strong, and you see all of this, and it makes you stop and look at yourself and ask the question of, why wasn't I enough? Why didn't I matter enough? Why couldn't you stay? Why couldn't you? But what I recognize is that our worth is not determined by that at all. They couldn't do it, and that's okay. But that doesn't mean that you're not completely valued. That does not mean that you're not completely loved. And I know that the emotions in the moment are very real. As I am talking, I can feel them. It's very real to be confronted with this reality of, wow, he really didn't stay. What I want us to get from this video today is, I just want to invite you into this opportunity and this relationship with someone who really can help you. I want us to begin to deal with the hurt and the real life emotions about why we make the decisions that we make. Why, especially when it comes to our fathers not being present. Let's deal with that. Let's have that conversation, and do not be afraid to go for help. Do not be afraid to, whether it's going to help because you have a pastor or a leader in your life, whether you have someone who you trust, or if you're going to counseling or you're going to therapy. it is very necessary for us to begin to deal with our areas and our issues so that we can develop healthy relationships. We do not have to be burdened down by the fact that someone is not there and that this man decided to walk away. It was not on you. It's not because of you. It's not a role that you need to take on. It's not a responsibility, a label, or an identity for you to take on. You are loved. And if you didn't know that before this video, I hope now at the end of this video that you begin to understand that God actually does love you. That as I conclude this video, I just want you guys to know that you are completely loved. You are completely worthy. And just start confirming and writing those affirmations about who you actually are. You're loved, you're beautiful, and even though he didn't stay around, your value is not determined by that. I love you guys. I will see you on the next video.